Hello everybody, it's Lorraine Alternative Homesteading again. It is August 4, 2023. I have in front of me the book by Dr. John Hall, Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control. This is a book I purchased when I lived in New Jersey, read it there. And I would just want to show you quickly what they do to books, these criminals, these losers, these jealous, envious, greedy psychopaths. So this is my book, and this is what they do to books. They like to damage the cover, which is what they did here. Let's see if you can see it a little bit better. There, they damage the cover over there. And you can see the little scratch over there. There. And then they like to hit up the corners like that. Like that. See that? That's what these losers do. They are losers. I wonder if they even know how to read. So this is what the back of the book looks like. The book is dated 2014. So let's get into it. But before I do, please hit the thumbs up. Share if you feel inclined to do so. I'll read a little bit of it, and then what I'll do is, if you're interested, I could read a chapter at a time and post it online for you. I know sometimes it's easier to hear it, when you're driving or in the background, you're cleaning or whatever, rather than actually picking up the book if you have it, or if you don't have the book, finding it online or whatever. So that's Guinea Pigs, Technologies of Control by Dr. John Hall, or John Hall. The book is dedicated to the memory of Dr. Fred Bell, a true patriot and good friend. So these are the table of contents. I'll just read some of it. So there's chapter 1 is non-consensual experimentation. Chapter 2, MK Ultra. Chapter 3, remote influencing. Chapter 4, remote neural monitoring. Chapter 5, auditory harassment. Chapter 6, organized stalking. Chapter 7, directed energy. Chapter 8, targeted individuals. Chapter 9, mind doctors. 10, rise of sociocracy. 11, the surveillance state. Chapter 12, the enemy within. Chapter 13, Valley of Elah. ELAH. Chapter 14, The Hidden Agenda. Chapter 15, Pergola of Perdition. Chapter 16, Prise de Fer. The Conclusion, Chapter 17, and References, Chapter 18. That takes you through page 177. Since the dawn of civilization, man has turned his attention inward to harness the power of mind and expand and potentially control his environment. As early as the Paleolithic period, man turned to the shaman for explanations regarding fertility, the environment, and healing. These shamans supposedly possess the ability to connect to spiritual realms as well as the natural energies of the universe, allowing them to help with matters that may have been afflicting the entire tribe. One looks no further than writings about North American medicine men to see accurate illustrations of the power attributed to those Native American shamans. D.D. Mitchell, superintendent of Indian Affairs of the 1800s, documented his experience with bear medicine men of the Arikara tribe. Mitchell and several other white men were invited to take part in bear medicine men ceremony at the Arikara, during which the medicine men, dressed like bears, would demonstrate their power to non-believing white men. In his journal, he detailed how the medicine men took clay and fashioned tiny horses, buffalo warriors, complete with tiny bows and arrows from the clay. The figurines were placed in a circle drawn into a dirt floor at the lodge. Upon the spoken command of one of the medicine men, the clay figures became animate, each warrior on horseback chasing down the buffalo and shooting arrows into them. After clay figurines finished their hunt, they were further instructed to ride into the fire that was placed at the center of the circle. The baked clay figurines were then crushed into dust, and the dust handed to D.D. Mitchell. After a careful search of the lodge and the medicine man, Mitchell could not identify any means by which the demonstration was accomplished. In his journal, he attributed their ability to animate the clay figurines to some sort of witchcraft or demonic force. Many other actions performed by medicine men were recorded by other Indian Affairs officials, employees, and Jesuit priests. Perhaps the easiest explanation would be that the medicine men possessed a tremendous ability to successfully hypnotize the spectators. The term hypnosis was coined by Scottish surgeon named James Braid, who based his practice on the techniques developed by Franz Mesmer, the first to describe the animal magnetism. According to Mesmer, there is a natural energetic transference that occurs between all animate and inanimate objects that results in energy movement through channels of the body. For those readers familiar with the basic quantum physics, this theory should look very familiar. It is essentially an early, crude description of the Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen theory. Eventually, hypnosis was taken seriously by the psychological and parapsychological. A research into hypnosis and other forms of ESP took root in the scientific and medical communities. The government began to take notice. Non-consensual medical experimentation was already rampant in most industrialized countries, including the United States. The secret to unlocking the human mind was irresistible to these doing military research and most governments. As Korean prisoners of war returned from China showing signs of brainwashing, the race for learning the techniques for controlling the human mind began. The creation of a Manchurian candidates, individuals who could be controlled in an altered personality state, was deemed a necessity by both the DoD, the Department of Defense, and intelligence agencies. However, the search for viable control technologies has resulted in a plethora of non-investigative experimentation that has continued into the current day. Non-consensual experimentation. When one speaks of non-consensual experimentation, the immediate picture one gets in their mind is a Nazi camp where grotesque experiments were carried out on imprisoned Jews. Most Americans have no clue that many of the doctors carrying out those experiments were brought to the United States bypassing the Nuremberg trials by the Office of the Strategic Services through Operation Paperclip. Many others were assisted out of Germany prior to the fall of Berlin. Wait, I just lost my place. By the Catholic Church, who supplied them with false passports to South American countries like Uruguay and Paraguay. The strides they had made through non-consensual experimentation were seen as though a rationale to the national security of the United States. As a matter of fact, until recently, the Aerospace Library at Randolph Air Force Base in San Antonio, Texas, was named the Strughold Aerospace Library after Hubertus Strughold. He is widely known as the father of American aerospace medicine for his role in pioneering manned spaceflight. before being brought to the United States under Project Paperclip, he was a colonel in the Luftwaffe, senior advisor in their medical service overseeing medical experimentation. I'm going to fast forward a little bit. Non-consensual experimentation being done in Nazi Germany was not done in a microcosm. Much of it was in direct replication of experimentation being done in the United States. The atrocities in the concentration camps that were a reflection of these poor men were being done in the United States. The atrocities in the concentration camps were a reflection of atrocities being committed here in the name of furthering medical science. For example, it is widely held that the Nazi eugenics program were adopted from eugenics programs already in place in the United States. According to a Yale study, the popular movement aimed at improving society through selective carried out a much larger and longer scale than previously carried. Let's fast forward a little bit. There was forced sterilization. It was legal in 18 states in the U.S. until the 1960s. And we're going to fast forward a little bit here. A year after Hitler took power, the New England Journal of Medicine in 1943 praised Germany as the most progressive nation in restricting fecundity among the unfit. Forced sterilization was legal in 18 states in the U.S. until the 1960s, with sterilization possible without consent. Moreover, in 1926, the Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes wrote, "It is better for all the world if, instead of waiting to execute degenerative offspring for crime, that we should instead allow those to become hungry. It is better for all the world if, instead of waiting to execute degenerate offspring for crime, or to let them starve for their imbecility, society can prevent those who are manifestly unfit from continuing their kind." The most important eugenics laws in the United States were eliminated by the 1960s, and resurgence in the institution of eugenics has rooted itself within the Obama administration. Many of the czars, C-Z-A-R-S, were appointed after his initial election and are devout. Many of the czars he appointed after the initial execution are devout eugenicists. Social engineering attempts of this administration have included health care rationing to the elderly, death panels to determine who may be too ill to keep on life support, where I just missed my spot here. Not having learned a lesson from past atrocities, progressives in our current government are still determined to create the society that they feel is best for us based on their elitist attitudes and disdain for those intelligent enough to question their motives. Unfortunately, a vast percentage of Americans under the age of 30 have been successfully dumbed down by federally mandated public school curriculum to not possess the ability to question the government about anything. Assuming that this book is written on 10th grade level or better, consider yourself in the minority if you're understanding it, since 90% of all adults in the United States read between the 8th and 9th grade level. So I'm going to end here. I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed. And we'll continue this. Let me know if you'd like for me to read a little bit more about Dr. John Hall's book, Guinea Pigs. So this is going to be part 1. But I'm just going to add here on page 5, it says that please note that there was a public forum voicing complaints of non-consensual experimentation with directed energy and electromagnetic weapons. The number of individuals voicing these complaints grew so large by the 4th meeting that the chairman of the commission, Amy Gutman, asked that individuals complaining of directed energy research not attend. Is that amazing? They didn't want anybody to know about it. They didn't want you to talk about it. So anyway, this is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading, signing off for now. I hope everybody's having a good day, good evening, good morning.